Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us. My goal today is to give you basic understanding of multi-tools to help you in your decision making. The following agenda is what we're going to be discussing today. We're going to look at what is a multi-tool, the different types of multi-tools, maximum A dimensions, features and benefits, the considerations for selecting the right multi-tool, machine requirements, potential problems and solutions, and maintenance. So with that said, we're going to jump right into what is a multi-tool. And it's best to think of it as a turret within a turret. The purpose of a multi-tool is to increase the capacity of your turret. And over on the right-hand side, there's a turret with 31 tool stations. And if you select either a non-indexable design or an indexable design multi-tool, they come in quite a wide variety of different numbers. So, for example, if you picked a 20-station multi-tool, it would turn this turret into a 50-station multi-tool, with one of those stations being used up, of course, with the multi-tool. But the multi-tool basically uses the auto index station to spin in the top half of the multi-tool a small little ram inside there to that desired punch that then will get punched through the sheet. With trunk machines, it utilizes the rotation mechanism to spin that inner ram to the desired punch. But your machine tool provider has the software that enables you to run the machine. It is not something that's provided by the tool manufacturer. So we've got a picture here of a number of different types of multi-tools. It certainly isn't all that is offered out there in the industry, but it gives you a rough idea of what they look like and how they can come in a variety of different number of stations. For turret press styles, I see the 3 and 8 station as being the most common, as many of the newer machines that are being put out there have the rotational design, which typically is the 3 and 8 station. For trump style, the 5 and 10 station seems to be the most common. And again, the newer machines tend to be set up with the software to run those. So that's why we are typically seeing those more often. But there are different types of multi-tools. Again, you can get them for the thin turret, thick turret, or trump style. But I like to think of the different designs. I kind of categorize them into 2 different categories, non-indexable and the other indexable / rotational. The non-indexable design is characterized by a fixed shape at location. That is that you can put your shape at a 0 or a 90 or a 45 in the tool itself, and that's what you will always be hitting. And with the non-indexable design, you have quite a wide variety of different stations that are available in that design. The non-indexable design was the style that was first created when multi-tools came into being. And so, you know, with that non-indexable design, if you had a shape at, say, 22.5 degrees that you wanted to punch in your sheet, you would need to buy a punch and a die that was specifically keyed to that angle, that shape at location, so that you would be able to hit it. And so that was kind of one of the drawbacks of that. It was added more cost because you had to pay for special keying. And then that particular punch was dedicated to that particular shape. So you could only use it for that. A few years later, the indexable rotational systems were developed by the turret machine manufacturers that allowed you to punch any angle from 0 to 359 degrees. So it required special software as well as a special mechanism in the auto index station to make that work. But the nice thing was you could utilize your punches and not have to worry about getting them keyed, paying additional money. The system was such that it could rotate it to that 22.5 degrees if that's what you were looking for, but then utilize it in any other angle, 0, 90, or 45. So, you know, it was a great innovation in machine manufacturing. You know, the question is, you know, the type of what type of multi-tool is best for you, and that is really dependent on your product mix. So one of the things you want to do is to look at how many different small size holes do I have in my product line. If you're a job shop, that makes it particularly difficult, but nevertheless, common sizes are ones that you want to use. And just as an additional, it's ideal to have sizes that are similar in number of hits so that they can be sharpened at the same time. You know, easier said than done, of course, but we'll discuss why that could be important a little bit later. So it looks like we're going to do a second poll right now. The question is, do you have a multi-tool at your facility? And are you looking to upgrade your multi-tool or purchase a multi-tool? Okay, so most of you do have a multi-tool in your facility, and you are looking to, some of you are looking to upgrade, so that's good. Hopefully this will be a good value to you here. So I think the next thing we're going to talk about is the maximum A dimensions. And with multi-tools, they can range anywhere from 6.35 millimeters to 31.75, which is basically from a 1/4 inch to 1.25 inches if you're using the imperial dimensions. So it depends on which design that you select. And obviously, the larger number of stations that you have, the smaller the A dimension that can go into that, as we have to fit all those punches in the upper unit within the D station or in some cases an E station. So, or size 2 if it's trunk, of course. But there is a naming convention that when you look into the tool manufacturers' catalogs that you're going to see, and just wanted to make you aware of that, the MT, of course, stands for multi-tool, but the first number indicates the number of stations, and the second number, the maximum A dimension. So in our example, if you had a 616, that means it's 6 stations, and the maximum A dimension is 16 millimeters, which is 0.630 inch. If you had a 24/8 multi-tool, that means it's 24 stations with a maximum A dimension of 8 millimeters, which is 315 thousandths of an inch. So we talked about this early on, but the main feature and benefit of the multi-tool is that it increases the capacity of your turret and reduces setup time, with any hope that you would keep these sizes in your machine at all times, less tool changes that you're needing to do as you move from job to job. The nice little feature on most multi-tools is that they typically will have an internal lube port that allows you to put oil in, and through gravity it will help lubricate those tools and make sure that all the parts are moving smoothly and together. Carrying on with the features and benefits, ease of use. Installing the punch strippers and dies are pretty simple. It can be time consuming, of course, if you have a lot of multi-tools to install. But basically, you remove the top hat, I call it, the top part of the multi-tool, and that comes off fairly easy. Depending on whose design it is, some of them require you to unscrew 2 or 4 bolts, some 1 bolt. Others have a little push button mechanism that allows that top piece to pull off, in which case then you would drop your punches into the specific numbered opening in that upper unit. The strippers, in most cases, are typically slid in, and some designs have a locking mechanism for that stripper plate. Other designs use the engagement of the punch to hold the stripper plate in. Dies in the die holder in the lower unit are typically held in with set screws, and it is highly recommended that you lock them in with those set screws. The adjustable design, these are typically the newer multi-tools that are used in the rotational indexable. Those adjustable designs have a 2-piece punch where once you sharpen that punch, you can lengthen it back to its original length, which of course is important so that you maintain proper die penetration. The non-indexable design quite commonly is just a 1-piece punch. It's a small little quill punch. And so once you sharpen that punch, you do start to lose die penetration unless you have a programmable hydraulic ram where you can stroke it a little deeper to get that in there, but a little bit more work as far as that's concerned. And just a note that Trump does not have an adjustable design. As far as sharpening life is concerned, non-indexable types, that 1-piece insert, typically you're going to get 1.5 millimeters of sharpening life, which is 60 thousandths of an inch or 1/16 for both the punch and the die. With the adjustable design multi-tools, you can get 10.7 or 0.420 of an inch in the punch, and in the dies, which typically are a standard A or B station die, you'll get 2.54, which is 0.100 thousandths of an inch for that die. As far as the adjustment is concerned, programmable hydraulic rams is one way that you can control that stroke, as I just mentioned. The manual adjust to the punch length, which is that 2-piece, is really, in my mind, a preferred method. As far as considerations are concerned, the multi-tool does have limits in terms of the maximum material thicknesses that you can punch. For the turret designs in aluminum, mild steel, and stainless, it's 6 millimeters, 5 millimeters, 3 millimeters, respectively. With Trump tooling, it depends on whether it's the older design or the newer design. The older designs are basically for the H-style machines, which is pretty much 3 millimeters across the board. On the newer machines, which are the I-series, 4.5 millimeters, 3 millimeters, and 4.5 millimeters on stainless. If in inches, 4.5 millimeters is 0.177. 3 millimeters, basically 0.118, or you can think of it as an eighth of an inch. So you do have some limitations when it comes to that. And as far as machine requirements are concerned, the software to run the multi-tools is controlled by the manufacturer of the machine. And so my recommendation would be to talk to your machine provider to identify if that particular machine can run the multi-tool. If you don't have a multi-tool and you'd like to get one, you do need to check with your machine manufacturer, let them know the model of your machine, the serial number, and then they can tell you whether they can provide you with software for your controller or they can't, or if they can retrofit the multi-tool mechanism on the machine to that specific machine. That is completely dependent on the machine provider. But you do need to have an auto index in order to run these tools. All right, the other thing to think about when you're considering a multi-tool is the interchangeability. The newer designs, which are the indexable and those two-piece designs that we've been talking about, will take the standard A and B station tooling, which is a great benefit. If you have existing inventory, it's great because, and particularly if you have the two-piece design that we make, the HP style is what we call it. We can provide that for you, and you can utilize your existing inventory that you already have. So it doesn't require you to buy new inventory. It can save you a lot of money as far as that's concerned. The non-adjustable design, they offer more quantities of tools. You can get a 20 or a 24 station, but it is that insert design punch which offers less sharpening life and is not adjustable. The punch inserts for the non-adjustable design is unique to the design of that multi-tool, so it's not something that you can use anywhere else but that multi-tool. So the other thing I thought I'd point out is you really want to look at, designs where the punches and the dies are keyed. There are some designs out there where they utilize the stripper plate to key the punches, and that can cause some issues and problems as well. The other thing I wanted to point out with multi-tools is you can nibble with most of the designs of multi-tools, but it's not particularly recommended with side loading and such can wear the tools. And they are expensive tools, but it is possible to nibble if you need to. As far as machine requirements are concerned, like I said before, it's best to check with your machine manufacturer. You'll need to know if your machine has the software that supports multi-tools and if they can upgrade you, as we spoke before. You need to know your machine has to have an auto index, of course, or rotation if you have the trunk style. And so recommendation is you talk to that machine manufacturer. The indexable multi-tools give you the ability to program all the tools inside the multi-tool at any angle. We discussed that a little bit further. But you do need to have that indexing mechanism on the punch machine itself to do that. Indexing mechanisms cannot be easily added in the field, so if you have an existing machine, that may be more problematic, but again, check with your machine manufacturer. And the next slide just gives you an example of the multi-tool indexing mechanism. When it's engaged, the body turns, and in that top part that that mechanism is engaging into, that's where the RAM is. So when the auto index station spins it to the particular station or size punch that you want to hit, the mechanism will release and the RAM will come down and hit it for that particular location. And if you wanted to take that same punch and spin it at 22.5 degrees, then with the mechanism disengaged, the entire tool will spin to that particular angle, and that's how you'll be able to punch it at an odd angle. We do have a video of the operation of that we're going to run here. Okay, so you can see how it operated, how the top hat basically was fixed and the lower part spun, and then once it disengaged, the entire tool could spin to whatever angle that you want. So it was a good video, and you can look at that video out on our website if you missed it or you wanted to show someone else in your company the video of how it operates. Now, as far as potential problems and the solutions to those problems, one of the things that we see is sheet marking. And one of the common causes of that is that the die heights, after being sharpened, have not been shimmed back up to the height so that every die within that multi-tool is at the same height. That is easily rectified by shimming up those dies to keep them. And that's why in the beginning I said, you know, if you can find tools that typically take the same number of hits and put them into your multi-tools so that you're sharpening these at the same time, it makes it a whole lot easier. For one thing, taking them out, you know, and sharpening them and putting them back together can be time consuming. So, you know, when you can do all of them at the same time, that certainly helps reduce your downtime. And one of the things that we recommend as well, and we'll probably say it again, but if you can coat your punches so that you don't have to remove them from the multi-tool as often to sharpen them and keep them, you know, clean, you're much better off. So something to consider with multi-tools. Sometimes reducing down your hit rate will help with the sheet marking. And the other thing that we recommend or we see customers doing is applying Zipmar or urethane to the face of the stripper plate to help with that marking. The other problems are pretty common to, you know, not just multi-tools, but any tool that you're using in your turret punch press. Excessive burrs in your hole, you know, typically it has to do more with die clearance or the tools not being sharpened, which are creating those burrs. Machine alignment also can create that problem. And then as far as slug pulling is concerned, with the multi-tools, particularly with the non-indexable type where you're losing die penetration, that can create slug pulling problems. With the multi-tools, you want to be penetrating at least 2.5 millimeters or 0.098 into the die. With the two-piece design, really nice because you can make those adjustments, and on the shoulder or flange of the multi-tool, we have a scribed line that you can adjust your multi-tool length so that to that line, which will tell you that it's at the proper height. So something very important to do. But, you know, slug pulling can occur even if you have proper die penetration. It's just sometimes the nature of the beast, And using slug hugger 2 dies is, of course, a great solution to that. And if you are using a lot of lubricant on your sheet, cutting oils or so on, it's best to reduce that down. That sometimes helps with not having that suction that occurs with the tip of the punch. Maintenance. Routine inspection can save you a lot of money. You want to make sure that you keep your tools clean. As you well know, with your standard tooling, dirt and metal grit are your worst enemies in terms of creating galling and excessive wear. So you want to try to keep your tools clean. We'd recommend you lubricate them daily. If you're using these multi-tools daily, you should try to keep them lubricated well. And then, of course, sharpening punches and dies regularly are important. Again, I can't emphasize enough that coating those punches will end up saving you a lot of time and money. But as in the last slide, turret alignment is really critical. These are expensive tools, and so you do want to make sure that everything is correct and everything is aligned well. So, in summary, the multi-tools expand your tool capacity and reduce your downtime due to additional tool changes. You want to start with products you run or will be running on your punch press to identify your needs. Check with your manufacturer of your machine to see if it's capable of running the multi-tool or could be upgraded to the multi-tool. And I would suggest looking at the capability of rotating at any angle. The indexable multi-tools are really quite nice. Maintaining that multi-tool and the tools used in the multi-tool is, of course, also critical to making it work.